Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Schoaf. I'm the Associate Director of Grants, Resources, and Services in the Office of Research at Appalachian State University, and this is URC Reviewer Training. This video is Module 1, Purpose, Eligibility, and Timeline. So the University Research Council Grants Program exists to support research from all across the spectrum of the university. So it supports any sort of research, scholarship, or creative activity that is being undergone by faculty or EHRA administrative staff on campus. And so this is a very broad and inclusive definition of research, and we want to be funding projects from all across different disciplines and different fields. These grants are funded by a portion of the return facilities and administrative dollars from funded external grants. And these grants are up to $5,000, and each semester we have up to $60,000 to award in projects. The URC, members of the URC review the grants and make funding recommendations, and then they are brought forward to the Vice Provost for Research and Innovation, and they are voted on twice a semester at the voting meetings in both November and April each year. So folks who can apply for URC grants are essentially full-time employees of the institution that have an EHRA designation. So this could be EHRA faculty members, so both tenured and tenure-track faculty members, as well as full-time instructor rank faculty members or full-time lecturers are eligible to apply, as well as EHRA administrative staff people. If folks do not meet that eligibility criteria, they are still able to be involved in a URC grant proposal, just not as the lead applicant. They'll have to have a co-applicant that does meet one of those criteria. Applicants can only be involved in one URC grant at a time. They can only be involved in one proposal or one active URC grant. So if a URC grant is still active and open, has money in the budget, has not had a final report filled out, then they are not eligible to submit a grant until that final report is submitted and the fund is closed out for that previous URC award. Folks can technically get an unlimited number of University Research Council grants during their time at Appalachian, but we do ask that once they have received 2 URC awards consecutively, that they seek or show evidence of seeking external funding. They don't have to be successful. Of course, we would love for them to be successful, but that is not a requirement for them to be eligible for future URC grants. And I like to tell folks that once they have submitted an external grant, that sort of resets their eligibility clock in terms of receiving another URC award. And we track that in our office whenever they submit an application. Additionally, I already mentioned that final reports have to be submitted in order to be eligible for future grants. So even if a project has been completed for a while and the budget is empty and all of the funds have been spent and everything has been, publications have been submitted, presentations have been done, if they have not completed their final report and done the formal official closeout process, they are not eligible to submit future grant proposals. You, as members of the University Research Council, are eligible to submit grant proposals through this mechanism. But of course, if you are going to do that, you need to recuse yourself, and we would find another reviewer to complete the reviews instead of you. Obviously, we wouldn't want you reviewing during that cycle where you're submitting a proposal. And then applicants who have a signed contract with an external entity are not eligible to receive University Research Council grant money. So typically this comes in the form of publication agreements. We have seen other agreements preclude funding as well. This is because University Research Council grants are considered exceptional use funds of the university. So the intellectual property transfer policy of the university applies to these grants. So essentially, because the university is investing additional money into these projects, the university has an interest in partial or shared ownership of any intellectual property that results from these funds. And so if an entity, if an applicant signed an agreement with an external entity representing themselves as the full owner of that intellectual property, then without including the university in that process, then that can preclude them from receiving URC funds for this project. So if they have an existing agreement, they're not eligible. Every year, there are 2 URC grant deadlines, excuse me, and one is in the fall in October. The 3rd Tuesday in November at noon is the fall deadline, and then in the spring, it's noon on the 1st Tuesday in March, and occasionally it's on the 2nd Tuesday in March if that 1st Tuesday happens to be spring break. All of our deadlines in the Office of Research are noon deadlines, so these applications are due at noon. Applicants do have to have chair acknowledgement or chair approval for their applications to be considered for review. And these chair reviews are due 7 days after the deadline. Typically, these are done a little bit earlier than that. And I chase them down to make sure that they're all finished and that you all have plenty of time to complete your reviews once you've received the chair approvals. But you may see a partial listing of reviews or of applications for your review, and I'll notify you that you have ultimately you'll be reviewing say 6 or 7 proposals, but we may be waiting on chair reviews for 1 or 2 of them, so you may only see 5 or 6 of those proposals. Once we receive all the applications, we do put a PDF version of them in a Google Drive, and we will email that Google Drive out to you whenever we have it ready. But you will also be able to access all the full application materials within InfoReady itself. Once I notify you that all the applications have been assigned to you, you'll need to log into InfoReady, the InfoReady system, and check to see that you can see them and access them with no issue. And then we usually give you a couple of weeks for your preliminary reviews. And of course, we take into consideration any chair reviews that may be taking a little bit longer. We'll make sure you have some time to complete your preliminary reviews. Once you've done those preliminary reviews, those go to your panel chair, and then your panel chair will schedule and facilitate a full panel discussion where you'll make final funding recommendations. I will be attending these full panel meetings moving forward to act as a sounding board. I can provide answers about procedure or guidelines, things of that nature, and answer any administrative questions that come up during that process. And then once you all put in your final funding recommendations, I will collate all the responses across all of the review panels and total the scores and note which ones you've indicated should receive full funding and the requested award amounts, and then cross-reference that with the amount of money that we have to give each semester, which again is $60,000 more or less. So, and then I'll identify some of those applications that may be on the cusp or on the threshold or the bubble. We use all 3 of those terms to refer to applications that are close, but maybe need some further discussion before we decide to fund them or not. And then you'll get the opportunity to review those that are on the cusp or the bubble before the voting meeting, so that you can be informed at that time. And then once all of that is done and everything has been voted on and approved, I will take a couple of weeks and send out award and declination notices, either at the end of November, beginning of December, or at the end of March, or at the end of April, beginning of May. And then applicants have a year after that time to complete their projects.